May 9th of 2023. Steve, have you seen anything on there that you had questions on? or-
Didn't see a thing. I make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second that. Thank you, Tony.
There's that.
Okay. Tony, what do you have for us today?
First thing we have is Eastern Alliance Workers' Comp claims. Those are in the amount of $3,602.02, $3,602.02. Information is contained within. There's the minutes.
Yeah, we need bills like that each time.
Tell me again the number, the total, Tony. I guess I'm going to see it here in a minute.
Right there it is.
It's not bad, it's not.
360202.
Make motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, now we have the weekly health insurance claims from Allied. This is all medical, $18,890.89. And don't ask me why it came that way. I could hardly read it, but that's how they set the cover sheet this time. But
It's like a micro report.
all of that is all medical, so that's all that you would have seen on that other page anyway.
Okay.
$18,890.89. I don't
Okay.
know why that ended up that.
I'll make a motion to approve the allied claims in a total of $18,890.89.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have the monthly clerk report, which I put a copy over there somewhere. It's several pages.
That's a treasurer.
So
Oh,
when it was one page, I would print one off for each of you, but now that it's like 10 to 12 pages, I don't want to kill any more trees. I got my copy that we'll file, and that's the copy there for you guys. Standard monthly report.
wonder if she's just including more information or just a different format. It looks like there's more
I don't know.
detail on this than what we used to get.
I really don't know. I'm not sure what Jim was using and what she switched to, so.
Yeah. We may have to,
We're looking at the clerk report right now. Stands.
since she changed the format, she may wanna.
I mean, I can ask her if
Some of
there's
that.
anything new that wasn't on there before. It looks like there might be. I don't remember on Jim seeing names and stuff on it. So I think that you only had the one-page report. It never had all those names and things on it. I think that's people that have paid in to the clerk's office for one reason or another.
Yeah, we might have to.
You can ask her.
There's quite a bit more information than what, with all the pays, the outstanding checks. So,
Do you think she's just including more information?
Okay.
So,
so yeah, at this point, once you've had a look at it, I'd accept a motion to enter it into record. Okay,
Just kind of,
yeah.
it'd almost be better if I just have her email each of you that ahead of time.
Yeah, well, and if that's information that she wants to report, it might be good to have her stop in and just kind of go through it and then we can
So
decide.
what new information on here that wasn't before, what I
Right.
need to know and all that.
As far as the individual checks and individual.
Yes, I'm not sure, so.
Make a motion to accept the report.
second.
All right, motion carries.
And the final thing that I have is Weights and Measures Monthly Report from Inspector Dan Hackman. Looks like there were a total of 92 inspections from April 16th to May 15th. I handed that out to you all. I gave a copy to the press. What? You're being recorded.
All right, I'd also accept a motion to enter that into the record.
So move.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Radio station need a copy of that. That is all that I have, gentlemen.
All right. County Engineer and Highway Department.
Good morning. If
Good
you
morning.
remember, a couple months ago, Red Gold's going to do some improvements down on 1200 South where their new warehouse is.
Mhm.
And they're going to improve the radius on the 27, and you had signed that paper basically
Mm.
stating, yeah, they can do it. So today I have an NDOT consent form. Basically, the undersigned Adams County, being the applicant requesting permission to perform work on a right-of-way controlled by NDOT, authorizes Red Gold to submit documents and plans necessary for the aforementioned applicant for the purpose of obtaining a permit. So basically, we're giving Red Gold permission now to go ahead and submit their plans, is what this is. I had Clayton look at it, so, and the engineering firm that sent this to me suggested, since you signed the first one, to have you sign this one again, if that's okay.
Okay. All right, I take a motion.
So move.
Second.
I think just print a name and then sign it. I can follow the rest.
All right.
So while he's doing that, I really don't have much today other than yesterday was the final day of buggy plates. We sold 2,642 plates in our time.
How's that sound?
More than last year?
It's a little more, but it's close, about
Yeah,
the same.
I thought
We
so.
usually figure 23 to 2,600. Yeah, 2,642. 2,642 plates were sold. And then
Brad, remind me, how much do we charge? What's the fee per plate?
$120 per plate. And then kind of to go along with that, since yesterday was the last day, if they come in now there's a late fee associated with that. And also, just for your information, if they have a new buggy built, as long as they bring in the receipts and proof from that throughout the year, we prorate it, like so many months, and it's so much less. So we also do that too for that.
And you and I talked before the meeting. It's been a while since that has.
It's been at least 5
changed.
years since it's changed, yes.
So maybe take a look at that for us and see if we might need to adjust
Okay.
that for next year, please.
Yep, I will do that.
Thank you.
And then the dust control, that also, last Friday was the last day for that. And we had 21 people fill out forms for dust control this year for a total of 8,021 feet. Just as informational. And last year, we did 14,810 feet, but there was one individual that did almost 5,000 feet. So he didn't do it again this year. They only do it every so many years. So that's what made a difference. So honestly, we're only about 2,000 feet away from where we normally are.
That's a
So
whole mile. Is that his whole road that he did?
basically, yeah. Yep. And then, just on another note, I have an employee retiring. Ron Stevens will be retiring at the end of this month after 23 years of service.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stevens?
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, I'll ask him if he would like to come into one of these meetings.
Sure, that'd be
before he
great.
retires,
Like to see
if he would like to.
If he can stand the excitement.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
Very good.
Boy, short and sweet today.
Thanks, Brad.
I know. It's one of them again, I'm going through and going, am I missing something? But that's it. So,
All right.
thank you.
Well, very good. Thank you, Brad. All right, Rick?
Somebody will make that time up.
Morning, Rick.
I really, like Brad, I don't really have a lot here, a lot going on, but I'll try to give you a few updates or anything else you might want. Stan, I talked to you Thursday a little bit about the chiller situation. That's been fixed. It got fixed Friday. So both
Oh,
chillers
good.
are up and running. So we'll just see how they work and
Good.
what's going on, and I'm going to try to get some pricing from BTS to put the units in about some service on it. He's gonna try to get that to me by the end of the week, so I can fit it into budgeting and so forth, so. We do have a year warranty on it, it's just service.
Do we have to make a decision on those valves that were
Well,
bad?
that's the next thing. At some point in time, we can converse and sit down and talk about that sometime. Because it's what we want to do about that. If we want to change the overhead and change the valves in the building or,
Well, and that's gonna involve the heating more than the air conditioning, though, right?
yeah.
Okay,
But there
so we've
is-
got just a little bit of time.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
So, but that is the next thing that would tag on to this chiller thing if we choose to do it. The elevator, they've pretty much got all the tools and things stationed where it needs to be. Might be a few odds and ends. The elevator is still functioning just for that reason, so they can still get their material, their tools.
I saw your notice out front. Good job with directing people how to get help.
It's just a bad time not to have an elevator anytime, so.
is that something that we could put a notice in the papers or on the radio, or?
I believe it was, and I know it was over the radio, so
Okay.
deeply appreciated for that, because I heard it
I
myself.
think it was in the papers.
Okay,
Um,
well, we appreciate that from all of you, because that kind of helps us out and helps the general public out. So,
You know, along with that elevator, like I said, I mean, we had a couple employees that, wasn't too keen on it, I want to say, but I don't think anybody, and kudos to Phil and Yolanda, I mean, they're the ones too that they missed that probably more than anyone. I sure.
yeah,
So think about there's extra things that they gotta do and things they gotta carry up steps and so.
Do they have multiples of equipment and things on the different floors so that they,
Steve,
okay,
prior to this, we tried to stage like paper towels and cleaning and mop buckets, and they chose where they wanted their carts at.
I hadn't thought of that, to be quite honest, right? So I apologize. I'm glad you guys did.
That's what we did, trying to prep for this.
Good.
Other than that,
very good. Well, thank you, Rick.
Rick, I have a question for you. If there's a safety or security incident that happens on one of our properties, is that something that you would bring to us just as an informational thing, or
I would.
if you're aware of it?
I know that I would if I'm aware of it,
Okay.
and I would probably say Shannon would too, if she,
Okay.
anything would go to her as far as safety or somebody has, but.
Okay.
Trying to think if there's been anything that I haven't, like you.
No, we just had kind of a discussion, just talking about something that we had heard about. It's like, well, who would tell us about that? We don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, if I.
But I'm assuming if it's building related and a security or safety issue, that you would bring that to us, even just as kind of a FYI stuff. Thank you.
All right. Ed?
Morning. Good morning. Ed here. I had not been here the last 2 weeks because of tax time. It was a busy time in our small office, but we got through it for the most part. We do have some work to clean up as far as stuff that we have from the banks. I think we're through everything with the mail, but we still have some bank coupons that were collected at the different banks that we're still submitting, but,
And you're working one employee less than what you typically would have had through this
Yeah.
season, correct?
and we did that on our
So-
own, we chose to do
Yeah,
that.
thank you, and thanks to your
And
team.
It's worked out, I think, very well. For two reasons. It's harder and harder to find that third employee.
Yeah.
And then you spend a good deal of your time just training that employee. So we didn't have to worry about the training part of it.
Right.
It just nose to the grindstone and got through it all. So, but that's worked out pretty well. We submitted the end of the month report, and Tony has given you copies of all that. And at this time, if you have any questions on any of that, I can go over that with you.
I don't know that I have any questions. You gentlemen?
The numbers have swollen there a little bit on the bottom, but that's just because all the taxes have come in. Once they all go over and gets dispersed through all the different funds, that will go back to our, somewhat to our regular operating number that we have in the checkbook, so to speak. But other than that, everything's in good shape there. Ready for your approval if you wish to do so.
Well, we appreciate not only the efficiency of trying to operate without the extra staff member, but, you know, also what's going on the last couple months with some people, being unsure of the banks and stuff. I mean, you've continued to been, very secure in operating within the parameters that were expected and making us all feel good about the way we're doing business.
And as I did on that very first day after that really bad weekend out in California, I've gone back around to all of our banks and had talks with their higher ups as far as making sure that even though some other banks have fallen by the wayside out there, we're still in really good shape.
Good.
We're still in really good shape. Our four banks that we operate with are solid as could be. Invested in local mortgages, good, solid community efforts, so.
Yeah.
I think I probably mentioned this, but the day after that bad weekend with the banks, and I know you called our bank,
Mhm.
and I can tell you that we bank many counties and many municipalities, and Ed was the only one that called us.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Yes,
Yeah.
kudos to Ed.
Well, it was important to me because my name's on the bottom line with all of this.
Now, we reached out to
Yeah.
the rest of them, but Ed was the proactive one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
Good job, Ed.
yeah, how about that? It's official attaboy. So if you guys are okay with this, you need to do.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Ed.
Okay, I got everything all put down as far as the interest rates and everything on where every money is. I will let you know that one bank has upped their interest rate. They went from 2.990 to a flat 4.0 on the funds that we have with them. I anticipate some of the other banks will do the same and bring their rates up a bit as that's kind of where it's going right now. Just talked with my contact from one of our banks, and with the Golden Meadows money about to be closed on, their CD rate, everybody wants those CDs, and their rates have gone up too. So I'll have to put those out for bid if I go that way. But we'll have to wait and see. So that's that. Monthly interest for April. Last year, we brought in $10,165 in interest last year. For April this year, I brought in $62,748 in
Wow.
1 month. So we are already up to October of last year as far as our interest. So I feel real good about that. And that's just the climate turning around. We can make a little money on our interest. We're going to blow away last year's total. So I feel good about that. SBOA, State Board of Accounts, continues to be in the building. They ask for all sorts of stuff. It's not only just a state audit, but it's also a federal audit. And it's kind of funny because we'll have a whole year of something ready to go and they just won this month or that month and everything's at random. So they don't look at every last figure and they don't really try to trip us up. They just want to make sure that we have everything in good shape. And we do. And those of you that know Kathy, she's very particular on having everything ready to go. I know it's gone quite well so far, and I'm sure Tony has the same, where they ask for something and he and Brianna can just put their finger on it just like this. So,
Well, once again, we appreciate the efficiency of you having those records available, especially when we're paying them $900 an hour.
Well, that's for the
that's for
federal.
the federal
That's
part
for the
of it.
federal.
Yeah.
So,
It kind of makes your heart go like this, so I don't want them to have to wait around for
It's
waiting
like-
on us.
you know, I'm not gonna walk these up to you, I'm gonna run them up to
I agree.
you.
It'll be on next month's report, but on the 4th of May, I bought a bond for just under $500,000 and I got a real good interest rate on it. But I'll have that on next month's report. So I did want to let you know. And the final thing I have that I want to bring up today is we have I just need some clarification on the Golden Meadows property. We have 1 year of tax payments that have not yet been paid, that are due. They were due by the former lessees. We're the lessors. I always mix that up. They're less. People that are leasing it. He came in and said that, I don't know, I don't lease this anymore. I don't know these taxes. We look on our records and yes, he does. So I need some clarification on what we're going to do with that. The taxes we're talking about would be on the entire 140 acres before we sold it at auction, and it comes up a little over $3,000. So I need some clarification on what to do with it.
Well, I guess I would recommend that we review any documents that we signed as a leaser together with the leasee, you know, and make sure that it's very clear what the agreement was and what the time frame was, and review those with the attorney, and if he owes them, then I would ask him again to pay.
I don't know if Clayton and Mark talked about it or not. Clayton might know
What?
something about it.
Mixes it up a little bit is they're ready to close. The new buyers are ready to close. They want to close next week. And I know time is of the essence there for them. I know you're going to give them possession. You probably already gave them possession. So anything they do is not going to hurt us any. But they want to close, and the closing agent said that these taxes need to be paid before they can actually close them. I'm supposed to call them this afternoon and give them a
Feels,
definitive answer.
you know, as you transfer property, you know better than I do, but real estate taxes are always a question. Due and payable, and when they were incurred, and due and payable the following year. But in my quick review of the document, I think it's pretty clear that the tenant owed the taxes that were incurred during the year of the tenancy. And I think Ed went back and looked and saw that the total tenancy was for 3 years, and the tenant has paid 2 years worth of taxes. So it would make you believe that there's probably another year's worth of obligation there. I think maybe he was just mistaken thinking that he had paid that first year, when your records definitely show that he did not, that the previous tenant had paid that year. So I think maybe just some clarification there, but I certainly wouldn't want to hang up closing based upon a disagreement or dispute over who owes those taxes. I'd think about hanging up.
Well, we will have our regular meeting next Tuesday morning. Closing is scheduled for 2 p.m. that day. So if you could make a recommendation by next Tuesday morning, or if you have approached the tenant and have some clarification for us, we could make a final decision.
The closing agent may not be happy with that. They're going to want that cleared up
before
prior to that.
So,
It takes them days to put all the documents together
gotcha.
on a situation like this.
Clayton, you have some thoughts on it?
So we looked into it, and he paid 3 years worth of taxes, correct?
I think Ed's records show that he did not. He paid 2 years worth of taxes. That the taxes for the first year of his tenancy, which were the prior year's taxes payable within the first year of his tenancy, were paid by the previous tenant.
Which would be standard because you pay
Yeah,
a
pay
year
in
late for your
arrears.
taxes.
So it appears to me pretty clearly that he leased the ground for 3 years and paid 2 years worth of taxes by our records. And I think maybe we just need to clear that up with him. And then I think he would pay it once we can show him that he really is only paid for 2 years, unless he can show us something different. But my fear is that we won't get that all done in a week.
Yeah.
Or less than a week. So I'm not sure what, I guess my guidance would be, let's not let that screw up the closing for the lack of a $3,000 tax payment.
Well, that's not even a $3,000. That would be the total of 3 year.
No,
No,
That's 1
that's
year
1
worth
year.
of taxes.
for 140
Gotcha.
acres. This is before we sold it.
So we
it
have,
would be
we
both
have
sides.
the option today of, either forgiving the taxes, so that we could proceed with the closing as scheduled.
But you can't forgive the taxes, the county would have to pay it. They have to be paid.
The county would pay the taxes, out of the proceeds from the farm. No,
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 that's
I
not gonna
think
work.
that's
either.
a
That's
terrible
not gonna-
precedent. You know, sorry, but I don't think that's the right precedent to set.
No, it's not.
what do you recommend as,
The person that owes the taxes should pay the taxes.
I mean, it's not to say that at this point we can't delay closing if we need to.
True, I mean.
They have possession of the land, so we can delay the closing until the tax
Right.
is,
It wouldn't hold up the crop year.
no.
If we
No,
did-
if somebody wants to put fertilizer on it, if they want to plow it, you're not going to not let them do
Sure.
that. Because anything they do benefits the land.
I know it's hard to set those closings though, when everybody is available and
Yeah,
attorney's available and the buyer's available and the seller's available. And once we've got a date set,
but I mean, if we don't want to set the precedent of
I
paying for,
know.
the
The only way I would do that is if we understand that we're going to collect those taxes one way or the other.
would that be by means of a lien against the,
Well, we don't have
Former
property
tenant.
lien against, but maybe we just have Ed try and work with the
I just
Top
want to
drawer
bring it
on
to
the
your
taxes.
mind, because I need to sign off on this. And I can't just waive those taxes.
right,
I can waive a late fee if we did something wrong. And the spring actually goes into late fee now, but it was sold prior to that. So I'm okay with that. I'm not worried about that. But the actual taxes themselves, somebody has to pay.
I would say just reach back out to the tenant and indicate to them that what our records show and that we need this cleared up before we can.
well,
For the sale
but
of property.
I don't think that's gonna be good enough. I think we need to make a decision today, to tell Ed what to do. Either that or delay closing. I think we either need to say the county will pay those taxes, or we need to delay closing until it's resolved. I think that's what we need to do today. Would you agree or not?
I would like to have a decision today, but
Yeah.
I'm serving your,
But I guess what I'm saying is if we don't have a decision today, then we potentially would have to delay closing.
Well, I'll make the motion, we delay closing until we get this taken care of.
Okay.
What if it can be taken care of prior to closing in a timely manner?
Well, then, if we can add that to my motion. If it's taken care of in a timely manner, we don't have to delay.
Yeah, if the taxes are paid by, as per the assessment.
I guess the problem becomes if they refuse to pay it after being shown this.
Then we're going to delay closing.
Then we're
Want to delay closing?
And I'll second the motion.
do we want to put a time frame on as far as if they're taken care of by tomorrow or by Thursday or by?
I don't know. That probably is determined by the closing agent when they have to have that
If they're gonna close Tuesday afternoon,
insurance paid.
with Steve, you'd know maybe, if they were done by the end of business Friday?
I would think so. I think the closing agent just has to be able to certify that part of the closing record.
It's just kind of a,
Or is the closing here locally?
yes,
Okay,
Well,
makes it easier.
if the tax assessment is satisfied by Friday noon, then, or to the extent that it doesn't delay closing. But if it's not, satisfied by Friday, then we have to delay closing, I suppose. I suppose
By
that would.
noon on Friday.
I suppose that would be kind of up to the closing agent. Is there one single closing agent that's
Yeah.
scheduling? So I would work out that time frame with that closing agent as to what that deadline would be. But,
I'll get to work on it.
so, we'll be talking to you in the meantime and see how
Okay.
things are going.
Uh,
Because we certainly want to move ahead with that.
I just hope you understand that there's some things that I have to legally do by state statute.
Sure.
And I can only sign off on some things I can't. And this is one thing, I can't make that decision.
Sure.
That's your
All right.
decision. So,
Well, we will, hopefully it works out.
I mean, my decision would be,
But if we have to delay closing, we'll delay closing.
it goes into the whole, it has to be paid, and if it's not paid within 3 installments, then it's a tax sale deal and all that. We don't want that to happen with this.
My hope is just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
cleared up.
thank you, Ed.
And just for transparency, actually, Tony and Brianna went back for the lease and got that out of his records. And I did not bring that up. He
Okay.
had it in his records, so.
All right,
Okay,
very good, thank you.
thank you very much. I'll get to work.
All right. Well, very good. We got some special guests with us today. So if you folks want to come on up, I appreciate you coming down. So, and if you want to, just to put a little context to this, several years ago, the state decided that we would go to a regional mental health provider, community mental health provider. And for Adams County, that became Park Center, which Park Center was acquired by Parkview. And so we've had at least 2 meetings with you, which were very much appreciated to discuss the care and opportunities that our local agencies were getting. And so one thing that we asked for in our last meeting was a semi-annual report. And so that brings us here today. So I'll leave it up to you for introductions and presentation and however you'd like to go ahead. So.
Well, thank you, and we're happy to be here to meet with the commissioners to really talk about Park Center and Adams County. So I'll introduce the folks that we have here. On my left is Dick Robinson, who is our board chair. And then some of you may have met Liz Day, who is in charge of operations of our community mental health center. And then to my right is Dr. Greg Johnson, who's also a board member, and he's on our quality board. And then actually in the back of the room, we have Jeremy Brown, who is also a board member and who represents Adams County on our board. And then we also have Jenny Broderick back there, who is the manager of our Adams County office. So again, thank you for that opportunity. And we just are appreciative to be in this community, serving this community for a number of years. And one of the things I'm going to have Liz give you our annual report that came out, and we'll be looking at pages 14 and 15 that are specific to Adams County. And then we also brought our quarterly report that we do give to the stakeholders in Adams County so that they know that how we're doing. And as Stan had mentioned, we have met several times here. We have folks who come trying to identify what are the needs. And in all transparency, there have been some gaps in services that really came to our attention this past November. And I think that we've worked really hard to try and meet those gaps with DCS, also community corrections and probation and the court system. So if you have questions around that, we're happy to share with you kind of the progress we've made. So I think if it's okay, we'll first start out, and if you want to hand out both of just really what happened in 2022 in Adams County, and I'll just kind of get some data and highlights with that, and then you can talk about the quarterly report if you want. And we specifically are handing it out. There's a full report there, but.
Oh, there's-
Hi, how are you?
Hey, can I ask you a favor? I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry. We've got Ian Gilbert from Community Corrections. I had asked him to sit in with us today. I don't know if you got an extra copy of the report,
Yeah,
if we can
absolutely.
get one.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I apologize, he snuck in when I wasn't paying attention, which is pretty normal, I guess, is we have in the back of the room, Dr. Essen Mahmood, and Dr. Mahmood is our Chief Medical Officer for the Behavioral Health Institute, which includes Park Center. So Dr. Mahmood, you want to come on up and share in case you have anything. So we tried to bring everybody here so that make sure that we can answer any questions that you have about Park Center.
Well, and part of my participation in the meetings was to have some of our local stakeholders like Ian and Judge Conrad and Danielle Reed from Department of Child Services and also Jack Odell from Probation to kind of help me as our local experts, I guess. So we've all kind of been involved in the discussions together, because I'm not an expert on mental health and what should be expected from a provider.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm just going to highlight a little bit on page 14 and 15 there is that in 2022, we served distinct patients from Adams County, 726 individuals, and 28%, so almost 30% of them were under the age of 18. So as you know, with the pandemic, it's increased really the mental health crisis, and especially in children and adolescents. So that's definitely something that we believe needs to continue to be a focus with that. And then really, if you look at the other large age group, it's kind of evenly 36% are ages 18 to 40. So we see a significant number of patients or clients there. And then there's another 37% that are 40 and older. And we see 55% of the patients were female and 45% male. So when you look at the actual units of service that we delivered, it was almost 30,000 units of service. And of that, some of those services, about 3,600, were by therapists or prescribers, physicians, advanced practice nurses. And then 22,000 of the services were actually done out in the community. So I think one of the unique things about community mental health, it's not just an office setting where people have to come to the office. We actually take services out into the community. And as you can see, that's a significant number of services that we're doing that. And I know that I've been asked before, we're very grateful of the dollars the county does give us to help supplement our services. And how we use those dollars that you do give us is that it's really primarily focused on those community services. And we use those dollars against the federal match. So for example, when we go out and deliver services in the community, called Medicaid rehab option type of services, for every dollar you give us, we're able to deliver $3 and $3.50 worth of service, basically. So, and again, without that, it would be more challenging to deliver as many community services as we're doing.
So
we
you've
have
got a federal match on our dollars that we send
Yes.
plus,
Go ahead, sorry.
plus another match?
No, so basically, under the Medicaid rehab option, which is in Indiana, only the community mental health centers can provide that service and get that MRO dollar, is that anytime we do that service, so to make it simple, let's say that we basically did $100 worth of services. We have to pay back to the state, which they can then show to the feds matched. And that is like $35 approximately.
So, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So, sir, how, the Medicaid rehab option is a Medicaid option which is distinct to Indiana, which is given to the 24 mental health centers across the state. So the pool of money comes from two sides, the state side and the federal side.
Okay.
So states, let's say, spends 50 cents, feds might give 50 cents on top. I'm just making a ballpark figure. So they pay us. But when we deliver the service, the caveat is they want us to put back 33 cents in the coffer so they can keep spending that. So though they will pay us $1, we have to give them back 33 cents. We don't get to keep that, so that's how the method is working for reinvestment of that money, because there's so much money you can draw.
Mhm.
So that's what we call as a match. So every time we will bill, we will put 33 cents aside out of the dollar because we have to pay it back. Regardless, we have to just write a check. So that's what we call a match to that money.
Man, and I thought we had red tape in the county.
But that's what we use the county dollars you give us. We specifically, for the most part, use those dollars to meet that match. And that allows us, as Dr. Mahmood said, to really deliver more services.
Yeah,
So we're very grateful of that.
yeah.
And so I think that in addition, there's that quarterly report that you see. And I think that the great news is really through the interaction with Ian, Jack, and others, Judge Conrad, is that we keep looking at how do we deliver more services. And so when you really look at the first quarter, we are growing, especially around the medication services with prescribers and also therapists. And so I think we're headed in the right direction. Are we where we want to be exactly? We're not. I would say that, just to share, if you're wanting to know how this office is done financially here, back in 2020, we actually lost $1 million here. And 2021, we were positive 129,000. And then in 2022, we've been positive 142,000. So again, we're committed to this county, and providing services to the residents there, I think, is evident when you're losing it. When you lost $1 million, some might say, okay, we can't continue to do that here. I think that the needs in Adams County and the other counties we serve are vital. That's who we are. We try to serve the underserved. But also what I want you to hear as commissioners, that we also serve people with commercial insurance. We serve people with means. It's a mental health crisis out there, and we just continue to look at how can we do a better job with that. So again, I wanted to make sure that we had good representation here for whatever questions you have. As you can see, Dr. Mahmood, in addition to being an excellent physician, is an expert around mental health and even funding.
Well, it's probably frustrating, in addition to being a doctor, that you have to be an accountant to decipher the Medicaid ballpark. Our issue and what first arose from the discussions was, you know, what kind of, services were we getting for the tax levy and the money that we were sending up. So, you know, I think that opened up a couple discussions. One was, what type of services should we expect? And what is, appropriate, you know, without, like I said before, expecting to have a therapist on everybody's front porch just in case they need it, you know, to not having response for therapy sessions or even to the extent of inpatient sessions when we need it. So somewhere in the meantime, we're hoping to find out what's appropriate for us to expect from you and in relation to what, you know, we're contributing. So, you know, I've personally asked, you know, like people like Ian and Danielle and Jack and Judge Conrad to give me their thoughts. So I don't, Ian, do you have anything that you would like to speak? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I do.
I think we've definitely seen some improvements. At any time that we've had any kind of an issue, whether it's Jenny or others from Park Center have been quick to respond and to come to our need. The IOP program has been great for those who we can send there when it fits into their schedule. Obviously, supply and demand is a big thing. And, you know, most, if not all of our participants are working. And so there's no perfect time for that program because it's going to affect someone that works third shift if it's in the evenings. It's going to affect someone that's first shift if it's in the day. But we're working towards positive things. We're in a good situation at Community Corrections with the funding that we have from DOC for our Project Sunrise program. But we're still willing to work with Park Center, and anytime we get a client that comes in that's already a patient of theirs, we're not going to make them go somewhere else. They're going to stay with who they're with. So, but definitely seeing some improvements in the last 7 months. So.
Well, and I guess from our first discussions, you know, you kind of brought us up to speed on the change from going to strictly a Park Center operation to Parkview acquiring Park Center, and that transition and some of the challenges that presented you. And so the hoped improvement that we would see. And so I guess that's something that we are starting to see. And so, you know, we would like to continue to watch and continue to have a good relationship as far as services that we should expect. So
Something else I'll say, Stan,
Yeah.
I realize this through this process that I don't think it matters what provider is in Adams County, Indiana. They're going to struggle to get professionals with these qualifications to come down here and work. The sign-on bonuses that other companies offer, getting people to come from Fort Wayne down to Decatur to work, it's going to be a struggle no matter which agency is sitting here at the table. As a county, we have to figure out how to get people to come back that have these credentials and want to stay and work in our community. Because you know, when you see sign-on bonuses of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to go work somewhere else, who's not going to take that? So kudos to Park Center for adding staff. But I think no matter what, it's going to be a struggle down here to get people to come work. They're not rooted here and willing to come back. So.
Yeah, one of the things actually we just submitted within the last couple of weeks is a grant to offer incentives to come to rural communities and work for first year, second, I think up to 3 years to be here. To hopefully add more behavioral health professionals to the rural communities, Adams being one of them, but also Wells. But because we know that that's a need and we know that's a barrier in communities. So we've just submitted that. I'm hoping we'll hear something back in the next couple of months. That's going to be an option for us.
who would not want to live and work in Adams County? That's mine. But no, I'm sure as far as staffing, you know, the whole scheduling aspect of that has got to be extremely difficult, especially, you know, when you're in an environment like this that may not be as busy as what someone would see in Fort Wayne. And so from a scheduling aspect, I could see that being a challenge on your part too, to bring more people down and then, you know, maybe they wouldn't be as busy but
Well, I think another thing, just to comment on that, is that the therapists that are here have to be really good at being a generalist because they often have to see all ages. Sometimes when you're in a larger area, you can specialize more with a specific age. So I think that's another thing. But in addition to the grant, we have looked at, we do have a rural health committee that Jeremy sits on. And one of the things we've looked at is how do we entice more people to come to our rural communities, and really looked at stipends and a variety of things to try and make sure that we not only have them here, because unfortunately, one of the challenges has been is if we have somebody from Allen County who in the past has come to Adams County, often when there were openings up in Allen County, because it was less dry for them and everything, is then they come back to Allen County. And I think what we've tried to do now is minimize even the travel costs and to really kind of give a stipend, because we do believe kind of the bottom line is there's a lot of great things about working in Adams County in the office here. You know everybody, you know, it's just the community. I grew up in a small community, little Wakarusa, Indiana. It was a great place to grow up. There's a lot of positives about being in Adams County. And I think sometimes it's just getting people here, getting the feel for that. But to do that, in all fairness, we got to remove some of those financial barriers that, you know, cause them not to make that, you know, extra travel time and so on. So we're really looking, continue to looking at ways, I think, as Ian says, how do we keep investing and bringing more people here? Another thing I wanted to point out to you, as I mentioned, Jeremy is really the representative from Adams County on our board. But I'm sure as you follow the legislature this year is that as of July 1 in House Bill 1454 is that you will, as commissioners, have the opportunity to choose whoever you want to appoint or you yourself serve on the board. And so we welcome that. I will continue to always twist Jeremy's arm. He's been such a great asset on our board that if you choose somebody else, we're going to do our best to keep him because he's done an awesome job. And I think in fairness, Jeremy, really the first time I met you was a result of Wiley Cirque and some concerns you had about how the services were working here in Adams County. So we got together with everybody. And so when there was an opportunity, when Wiley was stepping down, we approached Jeremy. And I hopefully you feel like your board participation has kind of been helpful to give you a perspective of how things are.
Definitely.
well, and I don't doubt that and by any means, because Jeremy, since as an attorney, but then especially as prosecutor, I mean, he's been very active and I should say very proactive in whatever he's involved in. And so I have no doubt that he's serving Adams County well and serving the board well. So, yeah.
So what our plan would be is that we continue to submit to you, and I think, Stan, I've been sending them directly to you, but the quarterly reports like you see, and we'll continue to update that. But I also want to say we're open at any time when you want us to come back, if that's, you know, twice a year or even more frequently than that, we're more than happy to do that. And again, you'll have that opportunity as of July 1 to appoint somebody to our board. And so, and our board meetings are bi-monthly, and then we also have committee meetings bi-monthly. So we look forward, and please hear, that's part of why we're all here, is we want you to know that you can contact any of us anytime. And we're here to try and serve the needs of Adams County.
Well, I guess for my part, I appreciate the quarterly reports by email, but, you know, it is nice to sit and talk to you in person. So if we could do that again this fall, I would appreciate that. I don't know what you gentlemen, how you feel or what you would like to see through the process, but you know.
Yeah, I think obviously we're seeing some progress and that's as a result of what our folks are telling us. So thank you for that. Hate to have you come back more often than we need you to, but it is really helpful to have you here. And I appreciate your time. And I know it's not easy to get away from your schedules to come visit with us, but thank you for that. But maybe again in the fall would be good. And then if things continue to progress, maybe once a year would be fine for me.
Happy to do that.
Okay, anything else from Ian or Jeremy or anything? Okay. Jenny, did you have? All right, we appreciate all your work because especially through the state legislature and also in the county, we've made mental health a priority, mental health and addiction especially. And so, you know, it's just a big team effort on our part and your part and all our local agencies. So we'll keep working on it and try and get people the help they need when they need it. So, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.
What do you think about that?
We're doing this today.
Okay.
I'm not thinking too clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
Not really impressed with it, so. I don't want to use Steve's thing. We're gonna use Steve's thing.
Yeah, not so much either.
Okay, that answered my question.
All right, Colton, we'll have you come up as soon as Steve comes back from his coffee break. So, I'm just looking at Jim down there, brought a big stick with him today. I don't know if he's ready to whack somebody with that. Okay. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you again for the time. I'm back before you. A couple weeks ago, I was here and presented on Imagine Early, which is a joint coalition on early learning between Adams and Wells County. At the time, my request to you all as we start this initiative was $25,000 per year over the next 3 years. Those funds would go towards essentially the birth of this organization and allowing us to hire a director that would essentially be fill a very similar role of the EDC to businesses, but this would be to early learning providers. They would be seeking grants. They would be trying to help existing providers either upscale or get a higher license, things of that nature. And so again, just as somewhat of a recap, that's what we're here for. Our goal is to, as soon as we lock in some funding here, and as an update from last time, Wells County Commissioners have committed $25,000 a year over the next 3 years. Once we get a few more commitments, our plan is to begin promoting this job and hopefully have somebody hired in the late July, early August timeframe to begin work. This entity would be housed until it's able to get its own non-for-profit status under the Adams Wells Manufacturing Alliance. They would be the fiscal sponsor, an existing entity that already is a partnership between the two communities in the manufacturing space. This entity would be under that until they're able to get their own status. So really what we're doing is we're asking for some seed money essentially to allow this organization to begin, allow us to hire somebody to really move this forward. I will know with the EDC, driving it here locally, we've been able to get a $100,000 grant. We've been able to add 50 seats to our community. We've been able to have 2 business partners work with childcare providers in partnership to provide benefits to employees. And so we have seen some momentum and we've seen some things moving, but that's with me doing it, let's say, I think about it 5 times a week. This individual would be able to do that on a full-time basis. And so with that, happy to answer any questions for this request. So yeah, I would open it up to any questions.
So yeah, I'll let you gentlemen speak to that. Steve, you've been more involved as far as economic development
I
side
have
of
been,
it.
and I think it's a real priority of our economic development folks. Our economic development board has adopted this as a priority. I kind of defer to their better judgment as to what, that board's a really diverse group of individuals and professionals. And again, this is not the economic development of my past and my history. This is a whole different concept of economic development. And I think it was further validated by the meeting we had here a week and a half ago with Dr. Hicks and his partner from Ball State, talking about how economic development, the complexion of economic development has changed so much that it's no longer about the manufacturer or the employer and having space available and shovel ready and all that stuff that we used to talk about. Now it's all about the quality of the environment that your employees live in, the quality of space, quality of life that individuals can expect in Adams County or wherever you're trying to attract those jobs to or provide. And I think I know that lack of quality childcare, quality affordable childcare is a challenge. I know that from both the employer perspective and from the employee perspective and my history. And I don't know whether this is going to work or not, to be quite honest with you. I don't know whether this is the right answer, but it's probably not a big ask, and I support it.
I just have some reserves about it. I just don't feel like government should be in place of childcare. And basically that's what it is. Government's getting in, taking care of childcare. And I'm just not comfortable about it. And maybe I'm looking at it all wrong, but as today sitting here, I'm just not comfortable. Stan?
I'm not, couple things I look at, as far as pulling $75,000 out of our budget, I'm not sure where that would come from. But also as far as this person looking at, is that the most efficient way to spend that money to help the people who are using and need childcare? So I guess that's one thing I'm not absolutely convinced, but I don't sit in on your meetings anymore either. So, I guess at this time, I'm not real comfortable moving ahead with it. So.
Okay, I will add, I guess, a bit of clarification, Steve, to your question, if I can. I don't see this as government coming in and taking over and trying to fix childcare, because it wouldn't be a governmental employee. This is a standalone organization that would hire somebody to do this. We are asking the government to come alongside and help get this started, but the responsibility will be on the.
Have you tell me one program, you point one program out that the government has helped get started that they haven't kept their fingers out of, and they sent it back to the public.
Sure, I'll concede that point, I guess. I'm sure there are some, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I get to your point, Stan, I don't really know how to answer that other than I would be happy to hear any suggestions you have of a better way to spend that money, a more efficient way to help families in Adams County, other than having somebody who can help existing providers expand and grow and create more opportunities. We just heard And I came in at the end of this conversation, but the gentleman here talked about how difficult it is to get people to come to our community. I think a lot of parents, a big decision for them when they're looking to come to a community is childcare. Where is it? How affordable is it? Do I have access to it? And so I think on decisions like this, when we don't move forward, we're kind of putting ourselves behind the 8 ball, especially when you look at surrounding communities who are willing to invest and move forward in this. You're seeing their populations grow, and you're not seeing ours grow. And so that would be my only point there.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. There is a need for childcare. And one of the things that I always struggle with is what is our responsibility as county government and how do we use taxpayer money?
Sure.
So we have some statutory responsibilities, obviously, with infrastructure, judicial system, and the public health system. We do have some peripheral responsibilities that we've taken on also, that aren't core responsibilities. And so I think we just have to be careful with our budget, be careful with what our responsibilities are and how to use that money efficiently. So that's why I say it's from a budget standpoint and a responsibility standpoint. I guess I'm not comfortable, committing $75,000 of taxpayer money to essentially a private program right now. So
I guess my only response to that is we have a pretty significant tax levy that we assess specifically for economic development, seated tax.
right.
This is our board to advise us on economic development. They're coming to us and saying, we need this. I don't have the expertise to sit up here and say, your economic development board is wrong. I mean, we have the money. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are earmarked for economic development. They're asking for $25,000 a year, pretty small sum of that pot of economic development money. Like I said, I support it.
Well, we already send over $200,000 a year to economic development. And
Understood.
it is a private corporation. It's not actually a government organization. It's a private corporation. And so, out of our seeded money through economic development, they're able to use that in whatever way the board decides. So it's not like we're not sending them money already. We're already sending them a large portion of our seeded money. So we are supporting them, so.
And Colton.
You all right, Jim?
You're all right.
Hi, Jim. I am fine, yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm fine.
Just doze off.
Yep. Good. Yep, I'm okay. You.
You walk the stairs.
Okay.
You want,
We'll try to be a little more engaged.
Some water, Jim?
What?
You need some water?
That might help.
Yeah.
Okay.
there, I don't know if there's any water in the food bank over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got some cold coffee up there.
I didn't want you thinking that I'm totally against it, but my biggest problem is we're gonna take these funds and we're going to hire state certified people. So when you start bringing in state certified people, and I understand they have to follow the state rules, and then that just opens the door up, and that's where I'm concerned.
I don't, I guess I certainly don't take your hesitation as not supporting early learning, right? I mean, I think that's something that
Well, I
we
just
can all
wanted to-
understand.
And that's where I'm uncomfortable.
But from that perspective of having to hire state I don't know what you mean by having.
Well,
to
you
hire
said you,
State certified.
on your first
individuals.
presentation, you said that we needed to get state certified people so they would know stay with the standards and everything.
I
And
think
so,
the confusion there probably was this individual would help existing facilities who maybe aren't certified via the state become certified and be able to offer vouchers and certain levels of education that the state deems is appropriate. But the individual that we would hire for this director position wouldn't need to be certified by the state. I mean, certainly, we've got certain things we want them to have knowledge of.
I understand.
But they wouldn't be a state certified employee.
I still believe in small government, and I feel like this is just opening the door up to bigger avenues.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Or
Yep.
any further questions or?
I don't have any other questions right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Vivian, would you like to come up?
No.
There's really two things I'm just making with you. Report and then the application for the rest.
All right.
Okay, so I'll start with just our monthly report for April. We brought in $27,399. Our cap was about $7,700 of that. The private pay was $19,716. We did not have any new admissions or any new discharges. We're looking at 14 men and 8 women as of right now. But we do have a possible admission that he has the application for as well. And that is a male, 47 years old. He does have high family involvement. His family picks him up often, takes him out. He does not have any ties to Adams County, but he could be funded through his Social Security, almost fully funded. He brings in a decent Social Security amount for that.
And we've done a background check and
Yes, we'd asked him, so. He currently is housed in South Bend at their county home. So they are just looking for alternative places.
You said he has high family involvement now.
Yeah.
Would that cease if he relocated to Adams County, do you think?
From his talk, his family very involved with him. They wish they could take him on. So I'm sure that they would come, probably not as often as now because they're located in South Bend, but I'm certain that they'd come and see him on a monthly basis or so at least.
And why do you think he's preferring to come to Adams County and leave South Bend?
I know why they're not allowing him to stay anymore.
Okay.
He's been caught smoking in the building.
Okay.
So that is why they're looking for alternative placement for him.
Are we gonna have a problem with that?
We've talked to him about it. He says no, that he has no issues with that anymore.
But
So
we don't allow smoking in our buildings.
that is a hard, keep smoking, you get one strike and then that's time we look for somewhere else for you.
That page.
it's like they say, I can quit smoking. I've done it 100 times.
Yeah, we do. I don't tell him we have designated areas for that. And he said, okay, he could follow that as long as it's not too far. And the room that we would be able to place him in is right near the ramp to go right out to the smoking area. So I don't think it would be, I think South Bend is a lot larger, so it takes a little longer for him to go outside. So.
I'm still trying to figure this all out. As you know, I've asked you more questions, I'm sure, than is my share. Alternatives for him. Where else could he go to live
They would have to
other
look,
than a county home?
I don't know if he has any alternatives.
Okay.
So I don't feel like he fits the level of a nursing home care.
Mhm.
So he's looking for a county home.
What do you say, 47? It's pretty young.
Yeah, he is pretty young, so he doesn't fall into like the medical requirements of a nursing home.
Okay.
So they would look for a county home and family can't take him on, and from the sounds of it, his family has a lot going on in their lives that they couldn't take him on 24/7.
And you said he's on Social Security, right? You tell me if I ask a question I'm not allowed to ask. You keep me out of trouble this way?
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what causes him to be at 47 on Social Security and not working or not like me and you out?
Yeah,
In
so
the
I
world.
think he did receive Social Security disability. I'm not gonna go into why he
No,
received that, but
please
that
not.
is, he has some things that he
Okay.
was eligible for Social Security disability.
So do you feel like he would be appropriate for our facility?
Yes, he was very kind on the phone. I spoke to him. He was very happy-go-lucky, very sweet, asking me questions about the home and everything, so. Initial phone call, yes, he sounded very, very involved with like what they do. He likes to play bingo. He likes to kind of hang out with the group and everything. So yeah, from sounds of it, he would be great in a group setting out there.
All right, so, unless you have further discussion,
And we have room, you say we have space for him.
Yes, yes.
We can make motion on accepting this.
the report and the resident also.
Okay, I'll make motion that we accept the report and the resident.
Second.
The only other thing this doesn't need, I'm just letting you guys know, we are looking into getting a new condensing unit for our large walk-in freezer. Our maintenance man is getting around the quotes right now for that. He has two, we're waiting on the third. So hopefully by next week or so, we can bring that at least to office hours or something, kind of discuss.
I have one question. I forget the gentleman's name I talked to, did he contact that information I give on the phone for the fire?
The hydro test.
Yes.
He did, but
Yes.
there was a problem with the phone number that he got.
Yes.
So he said he was gonna call you again. And when I talked to him yesterday, he said he was.
Oh,
gonna reach
okay.
back out.
I can give you that
Yes,
information.
I will. Write that down.
Eight hundred, I didn't know that number.
888 Corson.
Yeah, 188.
We don't have regular phones anymore, so.
I know.
I don't.
It's 188 Corson, KOORSEN.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll get that straight.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
I might have translated it wrong when I sent it to him.
There we go. We do still have that on the
Oh,
keypad
okay.
these days. I wasn't sure where to find that at.
Okay, Mike and Tyler, would you like to come up and talk to us about printers? So, let me get the. I didn't count the number of printers, but it was 2 big pages long when we sent the report.
I got it blown up for you.
All right. I tried to, when you sent it to by email, I tried to print it out, but I couldn't get it as big as. But yeah, as a little perspective, we've had discussions on the change committee as far as how to handle printers, and I had a meeting with Tyler a couple weeks ago on his thoughts, and so out of these discussions came a full report on all the machines that the county sponsors in red, green, and yellow coding as to where the machine is at as far as repairability. So I appreciate that from Tyler, and I appreciate all the work that Mike puts into not only managing the machines that we have and making sure the appropriate machines are in the appropriate place in office, but also adapting any internet connectivity and software needs that we have to adapt to our system. So I appreciate that very much. So it's been a real strong team effort from both of you to manage this. So with this report you're bringing, just gives us a lot of detail and helps us with asset management and moving ahead on any decisions we have. So I don't know if Tyler or Mike, would you like to kind of speak to?
I can start in.
Okay.
Tyler,
Okay.
basically when we started off, back in 2017, we had a past contract expired with Rico.
at the time. And we went through a long process of evaluating, trying to find whether we wanted to continue with Rico or move with someone else and what the past experiences were. We had multiple vendors that were competing for this contract. You can probably see why, you know. And one of the things that we stipulated on at the time was we thought there was way too much printing going on. I mean, my evaluation, I looked at it. I thought we were doing way too much. I also at the time, just being hired in, kind of thought maybe we had too many printers, but I had to rely on the network, but the department heads to justify what they needed. And being that I didn't have a lot of experience at the time, I had just more or less, we decided to kind of go with their recommendation of what they had at the time. We also set off forth a process where we're going to do document management because a lot of people were scanning documents in. And one of my prime examples was, well, how do you find that document once you scanned it? I mean, you're sitting there and some departments scan over and over, maybe all day long. How do you determine where to find that? What makes it, I mean, if you're going to automate something or if you're going to do something so that you can save space, you want to be able to find it, and you don't want to be at a point where it's easier to go to the file cabinet to try and find it than to sit there and go through a list of files and have to open every one up to determine which is the screenshot, you know, which was the one that was scanned that I really need. And so you do that through a document management process in which it does something where it's going to index certain fields, it's going to find certain pieces of information on the document and index it and put that into a database where you could search upon it, and then it would come up with all the hits based on that, whether it's name or whatever we decide. So each department would have to work at coming up with, you know, if they want to get involved with that, with scanning, to save on paper and so on, then they should be working with Tyler's group. And they put in a document management process along with this so that we could find that, so we could, you know, lower the amount of printing that we're doing. And we have lowered it quite a bit in compared to what was happening in 2017.
So I actually looked those numbers up this morning. On average, back in September 2017, you're running 240,000 pages per month. Currently, if you flip to page 2, you're closer to 100,000 pages a month.
Really?
So it's been cut well over in half. You know, now it's not entirely because of the doc record software and, you know, setting up processes on that system. I think it's more Mike, Bob, Ethan, and their entire team putting in dual monitors, you know, stuff like that, just to kind of facilitate an easier workflow so that you can kind of flow documents easier and not have to print so much stuff. But I mean, the processes that are being put in place are working, but there's still, you know, unfortunately, there's still going to be a need for copiers and multifunction devices moving forward, just trying to prolong the life expectancy of what these devices is going to be. So then, yeah, that's when you kind of this into fruition. You're asked to put together a list of all the devices. Stan and Mike had asked me to put together a list of the health of devices and what I thought maybe you guys could keep, possibly replace over the next couple of years. So,
And we own this. Yeah, we actually own these. It's a 5-year lease. We paid it off. These are now our devices. We don't have to make payments on something that we own now. So if they are appearing to be working good, you know, those are in the green or working good, then why would we want to go out and do that?
So we own every one of these that's on here.
Yeah.
there's only about 3 devices that are still on lease agreement that have been implemented after that November initial lease agreement. So it was a true municipal lease agreement where after the 60 months that expired, the county owned all the assets. So now monthly, we're just maintaining them. If you look in one of the columns, there's that black and white CPC or that click rate. That includes all your toners, parts, service calls, everything that could ever go on machines.
You know, one of the things that was interesting when you and I talked is the discussion about maintenance contracts and how some machines it's appropriate to have a maintenance contract and some machines it's not appropriate to have a maintenance contract. And I thought that's another means to an efficiency for us as far as what machines should we have a contract and what machines doesn't make sense. And so, you know, I appreciated that discussion or that recommendation too.
And I mean, your volumes have gone down. And that's a success for the county, but these machines are running at 400 degrees, you know? So every time that copier flips on and makes a copy, the fuser's going over 400 degrees. So any internal parts are just going to become brittle over the course of 5, 6, 7 years, and they're going to break down more often. That's whether it's doing 500 pages or 5,000 pages. It really does not matter. You know, there's going to become more issues on the machines now. Do all of them need to be replaced? Absolutely not. That's where I just highlighted 2 of them in red that, hey, we maybe need to start looking at like the Purdue Extension Office, for example. Kyle Creed, our service technician's up there right now, putting in a brand new stapling unit on the machine, and we've completely rebuilt that machine. So does that probably need to be replaced? Yes. And then there's just one small Ricoh printer in the clerk's office that probably needs to be replaced right now. But the vast majority of the machines are still operating fairly well. I think you'll probably be able to get at least another year out of them, if not more. But just, Steve, what you put together in an email, maybe we need to think about, okay, here in June, July, August, let's replace this Purdue Extension Office and the clerk's office machine. Then, you know, February, March, let's look at maybe 2 or 3 more devices and then slowly start to pick stuff off so we're not putting a huge burden on Mike's team to just replace 60 machines in one big pass.
And it is a burden on us. I mean, I know that they do a lot of work on machines and they get them prepped and ready for that to take place. But now we got to make sure that everything's delivered onto 350 machines or more now, so that they can actually print to the correct printer that they need to print to. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to take place on this whole thing. And there's a lot of reservations that are set and so on, which means that we put another machine in, the physical address of that printer is going to change for that address. So that means someone's got to go in, they got to edit that reservation with a different MAC address. Now, do we have the same number in the department as what we did before? Policies have to be recreated and amended and so on.
But if we were to change, like, say, 1 or 2 machines a year, that would be a manageable asset.
That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's when we go to switch out all of them that are here, it's a big ordeal.
Well, I don't think anybody's got any intention of doing that.
No.
I think the machines that we've got and the service we've got from you has been, I've not heard any complaints on that. I don't know.
I'm well satisfied.
Yeah. So I don't know that there's any, but you know, and even the recommendations from you, I think have been very appropriate from what I can see. So, you know, with a report like this and moving ahead into some type of asset management plan that the offices can be comfortable with, that they'll have the ongoing usability and good timing, you know, I think that's our responsibility. So thoughts on that, because I know you've looked into that too a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's my ask is that there is a plan, that there's a replacement plan that's budgeted for, that you know, we don't want to get caught swapping out, I don't know how many's on your 60 or 70 printers in 1 year. We can't afford that, or we don't want to build that into the budget. But there is some strategy that says we're going to replace 5 printers a year or 7 printers a year. Or these are the ones that we're going to replace. And And again, the only other thing I would ask is right back to your initial point, Mike, and that is that let's be as efficient as we can. Managing 40 devices is a whole lot easier than managing 70 devices. If we could get offices to think about, let's have one stronger device versus 3 or 4 less strong devices, and let's share a device and all that kind of stuff so that everybody doesn't have a printer sitting on their desk and all that kind of stuff. And that's last thing I want to do is try to micromanage this. It looks like you guys have got it well under control. I just ask you to begin, you have that replacement plan that says, here are the next 5 that we're going to replace, and here's where it's at in the budget, and then we pull the trigger on them. Because as you say, these things, eventually that cost benefit of ownership versus repair cost crosses over. And you're better off buying a new one and avoiding that repair cost of probably what you're doing right now in the machine.
More is like a user experience too, because like, if Tony's machine is constantly down, they're gonna have a bad experience. It's like,
Absolutely.
why are we maintaining a 7-year-old copier that's constantly broken down? So that's where we just need to get feedback from,
I think they're working on ours right now.
from department heads of, hey, okay, yeah, on this list, we only had 3 service calls over the last 3 months, but now we've had 4 more calls over the last week, and so that's stuff that just needs to be relayed back to us, and then the timing of being able to get
great
stuff.
aspect of having an organization like yours that's monitoring this is you can pull those service records up and tell us that machine right there needs to be replaced.
Yep.
Because and obviously you've done that. So I'm if you guys are happy, I'm happy, but I just want to make sure that you have a plan.
Well,
if there's a replacement plan, and
I really appreciate the discussion with you and with Mike both, and I really do appreciate this report. I think that,
What is the
says a lot,
shipping
so.
time on these now? If you ordered one today, if Mike ordered one today for a department, when would you get it?
It's gonna be very dependent on the device, like which one it is. So if it's like a 30 or 40 page minute, like any full color, it's probably gonna be 2 to 3 months. It was 12 to 14 months. That's
So it's gotten a little better.
Yeah, it's got significantly better, but there are other models, if it's one of these desktop printers or a color desktop device, it's probably gonna be 4 to 6 months. So
Mike, are you comfortable moving ahead, managing printers? I mean, are you comfortable with having that within your wheelhouse?
Well, we got to because, we work with them on just the printer itself if it has issues with it. But remember that all these things are connected on the network. They can't do that work. We're the ones who have to put the connections in. I mean, it's more than just putting a network cable in. We have to set everything up. This is a domain asset, and we have to have domain accounts, user accounts who will have access to print to them. It's not just anyone, We get people that come in from the outside and they want to print to them. Okay, I just got done with a guy over at the jail. He's the guy, and I need to print something off. But you don't have an account. It's not going to allow you to do it. It's going to look for your account. And it's not there. And
as Mike would tell us, unfortunately, these printers are so much smarter than they ever were that they can become weapons as used against us pretty quickly if they're not careful.
Yeah, they can be. And just like anything anymore, we discuss that on Thursdays. Cameras, for instance, they got an operating system on it. So FireEye is already picking up stuff already that even our cameras, if we don't buy the right cameras, they got an operating system, it's using Linux. It doesn't have AV or malware protection on it, and now it becomes a pivot point. If they can get in through it and get to that, they can install and do anything that they want onto that camera, and it has an operating system, and few people even realize that. So that's why we try and buy quality type stuff, enterprise level stuff. One of the things that sold us on this when we got them was they have some protection built inside of them already on these printers compared to a lot of the other people at the time that didn't have the protection built into them. So,
As far as making the decision, like say on, the printer up in your office, at what point do we pull the trigger? Do you make the decision to say, Tyler, order a new printer for him? Or do you want us to do that, or?
no, I think it's Tyler that needs to come back with it, and he looks at the service records and what
Okay.
they found out when they did the service on it. And he needs to be the one that comes up to me and says, hey, I think this is what we need to do at that point. And
So
if
do
I
you want
have to-
him to come to you or to come to us for that?
Well, it can be both of us. I mean, it's
Yeah.
okay, because I gotta know if we're gonna bring something else in, and I gotta know that there's some setup and stuff like that that has to be done. And, you know, are we even gonna talk about lessening the number of printers in a department? And if it is, then do we have the right connectivity on where we're gonna put it, you know, in that place and things like that? And so when it comes down to those things with a department, and let's say they got a whole batch of printers and small ones into there, we tried to put in better ones back in 2017 than what they had. They had a lot of inkjets with USB ports and so on. We said we're going to make them networkable and do that stuff. But if I don't get you guys to buy in with a lesser number, I can come in and say some stuff, and we ought to have a department head that comes in and says, well, here's why I think we need to have 6 printers instead of 3. And I said, well, you know, I think 3 would be suffice, but I don't think that it's a good idea to put one department head in a competition with another department head on this. I think someone's going to have to be the deciding factor. I mean, we can make recommendations. You guys are going to have to hear it, just like I heard with the school thing down in here, you know, with economic development. You're going to have to listen. And there's going to have to be some sort of mediating factor at that point that says, okay, this is
Yeah.
based on what we're hearing, this is what we need to do, or otherwise it's going to be, you know, this head bumping between department heads.
Mike, are those devices budgeted within the departments, or are they budgeted in the IT department?
No, they all come out of.
Okay.
I mean, at the time, I wanted it to come out of the departments. That's what I wanted. But I was overruled from that it was going to be too hard for each department to try and do that. So what it ends up to, all the stuff that we could have panned out for a department head to do at that point, I have to do it every month. I'm making claims and looking at invoices and looking at capacities.
So
everything
when you're
else.
putting your 2024 budget together for printer replacement, for instance, how will you get the feedback? Will you take the feedback from our vendor? Will you take the feedback from the department? Do you work with department heads and say, hey,
It's
we've
going to
got,
have to be somewhat of both.
Okay.
Where they're coming in, because, you know, even when we take a look at PCs, for instance, Steve, I'm
Yeah.
not sitting behind those PCs running their software all the time. And so if they're having slowness problems or whatever, they're going to have to tell us. You know, there's one thing if we have problems with them and we're in there and we're trying to update and do all that stuff. But if it comes down to a point where, okay, we had enough, let's say, good examples with VDI, you know, and I looked at long-term and stuff we were having, and people were having some issues with it, and we tried our best to get that to go. But then when I made the call into VMware and I told them about certain problems that we're having and so on, and they said, oh, your back-end servers are not capable of doing the things that they need to do. And I said, well, what's that going to cost us to get those updated? And so that price tag that you guys bought in 2016 would have doubled just for VDI. I said, well, we can't do that. And they're having issues. So right away, I just started to replace all the VDIs with physical machines. Now, in 2016, that seemed to be a good way to go. That was done before I was hired in, and that stuff was in there. We tried to make it go. But it turned out that with changes that were made in the course of time with stuff that is relevant to people from working at home and things like that. And the work with GIS, much visual stuff that's taking place, those BDIs could not handle the capacity that was needed just from the very fact of the way they operate. So, you know, I just started in and I says, you know, I'm dropping all. We're getting too many problems. I'm going to start putting out physical machines, you know. And thank goodness we did that because, you know, some of the other things, trying to get people to do work downstairs and so on right now. And some of the things, the roadblocks that we've had in the way just from COVID is still kind of affecting us a little bit on some of these things and how timely we are to get things done. And we're kind of backlogged into it. Our plan was to have the servers and everything updated in 2020, 2021. We couldn't get people in buildings at that point, you know? And so all that got pressed out of it. And now, you know, the same vendors that we would do work and so on, they're no longer around. We had to find new ones and so on for support to do construction work because that's something I can't do. I can't go and put electrical panels in, air conditioners and all the stuff that we need to do. And we're still going to have to move some servers out of that jail. It's just not a conducive climate for that to be in over there. It's just dirty and small, and the whole thing is just a bad situation yet. We've tried to improve it, but we're just going to have to make room downstairs and bring those servers over so that we can actually get longevity out of them and not have issues that we're starting to see stuff with drive failures and that. So, and we talked about that in our meetings because we don't like to bring up a lot of stuff, especially with security in here, you know, when it comes down to some things. And so sometimes I got to be careful when I say things so that I don't let out, you know, if we do have something that's known about with security, that we don't let that out, that I know about until we can get things fixed. So
Kind of back to the printers, we've got two printers that you show in red. Between you two, would you recommend replacing those? Order new ones right now? Are there any others on here that you would recommend replacing?
I wouldn't this year, but I mean maybe next year.
Do you want us to make that decision now, or do you want to? Because without going through your budget, I guess, as far as what your recommendation is as far as from a budget standpoint, and your recommendation as far as a printer expert. So
As the clerk's office already budgeted for the replacement of that Rico, that might have already came to the change.
Yeah, we came up the other day with that last Thursday. So
So then the other one would be the Purdue Extension Office, and if Missy or somebody needs to come and present that they would like to have that device replaced, I just need to get with her on how she would want to configure it out, put a quote together, present it to her, Mike, or whomever, you know, and then a decision can be made on that.
even if we want to act on that, so, you know, it just is going to be an ongoing process of how we make the replacement decisions. So,
Stan, I think as long as it sets inside our procurement policy, you know, we've got a policy that if it's in budget, it's over $5,000 or whatever that is, it comes to us. If it's not over, it doesn't. I think as long as we live within the procurement policy, I'm comfortable with letting these guys manage the replacement. You know, it's build the budget, live to the budget. And, you know, and if there's an emergency, if we didn't budget for something, then obviously then we need to get involved there, but.
okay.
And I was going to say to Mike's point about network security, manufacturers are only required to continue to produce parts and then push patching and firmware updates for up to 8 years. So when we get into 2025, that's when there's going to be a wall that you're going to run into, that Lexmark, Konica Minolta, all these manufacturers are no longer going to be patching the firmware on these devices. So then there's going to be vulnerabilities on your network. So yes, the devices may continue to operate well into 10 years. However, there's going to be vulnerabilities on your network that could present themselves.
Well, and that's gonna be part of an asset management plan that looks out beyond 6 months. It's gonna be part of an asset management plan that looks out beyond 2025 and into 2025 and beyond that. So, that being said, I guess moving on, if you're comfortable working with Tyler to make those decisions within that plan, but I do like that report. That's a nice
Thank
report
you.
to
Good work,
see.
guys. Appreciate it.
It's been really good to work with.
So I don't know if this report would be appropriate for us once a year, once every 6 months, I don't know what, so.
I think once a year would be sufficient.
Once a year.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
very good.
I got another issue that's outside of this.
So,
This was the invoice you guys approved that I told you was a 50% down a while back, dealing with WebEx and Room 125, and they were doing some cabling. So this is the other part. It's a little bit more because we added some more network runs into 125 that before it was, the 50% down was 66, 69, 25.
These are the guys that basically do the cabling and the wiring for us.
Yeah. So this was a duplicate of this plus some additionals that we had wired in that room. So it's 80, what is it?
83, 55, 93.
Would this be looped into the WebEx project then? Is that, or where do you think it would come out of?
Yeah, I would think so right now because, we're going to have issues where we're going to go over, with that whole thing. And I think you're fully aware of that.
We've tried to.
Do you know where we're at
Council
on
to
that,
expect
Tony?
that too.
I don't know what her latest update is, but she has a spreadsheet that has,
We've had no WebEx hardware for phase 3 getting invoiced yet. That's the major part of that.
we're just kind of waiting on the invoices to come before we.
As soon as they come in,
Make a motion, we pay this.
Second.
all right,
you had this under some ARPA amount.
8950.
Well, you didn't, it just was written ARPA at the top. So,
Says what it makes.
county attorney.
yeah.
So this isn't anything that's been paid yet.
No, this one's not there. They sent it to me, no matter what the date is, they sent it to me as part of this. Initial.
And they approve both of these just now?
That's good.
This one's okay.
That was already been paid?
Yeah, that was a 50% down that we already
Okay,
paid.
so this is the one they just did?
Yeah.
Just.
Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Same sister.
Good luck. It's going.
Let's see that
It's blowing up.
You need to go.
I'll get to it.
Prince more they do a lot of printing.
So I don't know what.
See, Jeremy just got zeros by his
Okay.
printing.
Yeah, there's not much
Wow.
going on.
Got one, it's, what is it, 100 was?
Oh, my.
He's got it down to one, looks like.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we've actually lowered. I could tell by consumption numbers that I get every month.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hey, Bree. You didn't do any updates on this, did you? You didn't do any updates on this, did you? You didn't do any updates on that, did
I
you?
haven't had time.
Okay.
Remember SBLA is here.
Oh, that's right. Right. All right. Mark, you have anything for us?
Yeah, we've got a resolution to authorize both Stan and Steve to attend the closing next Tuesday, sign all documents necessary for the closing on the county real estate. So we're going to do all three transactions next Tuesday. I did talk to Mark Quinn, and we'll put on the agenda for next Tuesday approval of that amended plat for the east subdivision, so that'll just get approved. You can approve that next Tuesday, and then we'll make sure that gets recorded before the deed comes over. So this is just a resolution, then it's 2023-13, Adams County Board of Commissioners. Just states that the Adams County Board of Commissioners is the executive and legislative body of Adams County, and the Adams County Council is the fiscal body of Adams County. And whereas Adams County Board of Commissioners and County Council held a public hearing on December 13 concerning a proposed sale of county-owned real estate. Thereafter, the Adams County Council and the Adams County Board of Commissioners adopted Resolution 2023-3 and 2023-9 respectively, approving the sale of county-owned real estate. And whereas the Board of Commissioners has authority to designate from their membership individuals with authority to execute documents on behalf of Adams County to convey real estate and complete real estate transactions. Therefore, be resolved by the Board of Commissioners that Stan Stoppenhagen, Commissioner, and Steve Bailey, Commissioner, on behalf of the Adams County Board of Commissioners, are hereby authorized and designated to sign all deeds, disclosures, settlement statements, affidavits, closing documents necessary to complete the transactions for the sale of county-owned real estate recently sold at public auction to the same, or further directed to provide a copy of such signed settlement documents to the auditor and to remit the net proceeds from the closing to the auditor as well. Probably go to the auditor, treasurer, get recorded in the auditor's office, and the auditor then give it to you. So, or however it goes. Any questions on that? Nope. Just need a motion to approve 2023-13.
So Mark, does your brain just think like that anymore? How do you write like that? Is that just lawyer training? You get taught how to do that in school, or?
No, that's years. No, you don't learn that at school. I
Oh
can tell
my
you that.
gosh.
It's just years of doing it.
Just put lots of whereases and
Yeah,
heretofores.
but yeah,
I listen to that and think, who wrote that? And I think Mark wrote that.
yeah, I wrote
How
it.
does his brain work?
It's messed up, but yep. So yeah, we'll just send that down to their signature.
That's misspelled.
What does it say?
Execution isn't spelled right.
Oh, well, that's not good. Huh. That's all right. I'll update it. But yeah, see, that's the problem when you have caps lock on. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't give you a misspelling.
I just see,
That's
because I'm a
fine.
newspaper writer and editor, so I just see that stuff.
Can you? Well, you need to do that for me.
One quick thing, we discussed it after Ed initially brought it up. So we did research on the taxes for that land last week, and I just reconfirmed again today. So Mr. Freaky did pay, he paid, so 19 paid 20, 20 paid 21, and 21 paid 22. So what he's saying he does not want to pay is 22 paid 23.
So he has paid 3 years
He
worth
has
of
paid
taxes.
3 years, and he had 3 years of possession for the lease. So sadly, what it is it's just a mechanism going all the way back to when the lease initially began, because normally, under the new lease that would begin, for instance, Freaky signed the lease in October of 2019. So we would have somebody signing the lease, generally would have been signed back in 2022, and they would have paid this 22, paid 23. So it's a gap. It's just a mechanism of the fact that we're not leasing it any further. Now it's going to sale.
It created the gap when we decided not to
Correct.
put it out for lease.
So it sounds like we need to pay those taxes.
Yeah, you pay yourself.
So
It comes right
there
to
just needs to be a decision by you guys. I mean, that's just, the gap was made because of the sale rather than continuing to lease.
It originated, I believe, back at the time, if you guys remember. But it used to be county-owned, really, the county didn't pay taxes on county-owned ground. And neither did the hospital. And there was a change in the statute, and I don't know if you remember, there was an actual lawsuit, and it was a mess. But the state said, no, if you have county-owned or municipal-owned or governmental-owned property that you are producing income from, then you need to assess taxes and somebody needs to pay the taxes.
And so what happened, I'm sure, was this ground has been leased since before I was born. And it's been leased. And for all that, for decades, there was never any tax assessed or collected. As soon as that law changed and then the county said, okay, well now, farmer, you're gonna have to pay the taxes. It would have, for the very first lease, he would have been paying taxes that were actually for a year they didn't have possession, due the year they had possession. And so that's just been perpetuated forward all those years. When you get to the tail end and you're ready to sell, well, that's when that pops up. And the buyer doesn't want to pay the taxes in 2022 because they didn't own it in 22. They didn't produce income in 22. So anyway, I'm sure that's what it is, that it's just, that's been perpetuated through all these years. And so here at the end, the county pays the taxes, it goes back to the county. So it's just a circle.
So at this point, all the appropriate taxes have been satisfied.
Yes.
And we can go ahead with the closing.
Go ahead with the closing.
Well, we will need to pay the
The title,
22, pay
the
23.
title company will take it out at closing.
If,
I've got to check the closing statement on that. Ed, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. And that's an excellent, description of how it should go. Going back in history, that makes perfect sense. And that's a very good way to describe that. The question I have, and you may or may not know this, Mark, but when the auctioneers had the, sales description auction day, were the taxes going to be prorated?
I think they are. I think they're prorated.
So we're going to have to figure out what all that is.
Title company will figure all the proration. It'll be on the settlement statement.
So at this time, I think it would behoove us for the county to pay the spring installment, which is due now. And then we'll catch up after the fact. But they should not pay the entire year.
Right. What you can do is pay the spring installment and then email that to me and then I'll send it over to the title company at Ainsworth's office and tell them to make the adjustment on the settlement statement.
Okay.
So, because they'll show the spring 22 paid and then they'll do the proration. You'll have, yeah, because they'll have the fall 22 due in the fall of 23 and then they'll prorate from January to the closing date.
So can we somehow get that check taken care of?
I'm confused. So am I cutting the check? I'm cutting the check like I did for the rest of the taxes, just for the spring on those two properties. Don't pay the fall, send you a copy.
Yep.
That we paid the spring.
Yep, and then I'll tell them to prorate and, well, they'll take care of the fall. They'll take it out at closing and then they'll prorate it and then they'll pay it.
Mark, wouldn't it be just as easy for the closing agent to settle those taxes in accordance with the sales document? I mean, I don't remember what we said in the sales document, but as long as that would just be paid out of.
Yeah, they could settle it, but I think, well, you're worried about the spring being delinquent.
I could take care of that part of it.
Can you?
But they said, I talked to them yesterday, and they said that it had to be paid before they could close.
Okay, well, I can talk to them about that, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure out the best way to do it. I mean,
So the good news is we figured out that the tenant's not responsible.
No.
That was the issue.
Yeah.
In my mind was we were arm wrestling with the tenant.
Right. And
We figured out that the tenant's not responsible.
yeah, we looked at that last week and
So do we have to pay the spring taxes even though we got no income from it?
it's the way it works.
And that goes way back to the history of it.
Yeah.
Your income is the sale of the farm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we
no,
need
it's,
to change the motion that you guys made earlier about
Maybe.
delaying
Feels like
the
it.
closing? Or
well, I think,
Well, I guess the motion was as long
here's
as
the motion.
taxes are satisfied, taxes shouldn't be satisfied, so just probably not gonna be by the person we thought it might be.
Motion to pay it, county pay it.
that's a fine motion, but I think we just figured it out.
That's what I'm saying. What do we
Just
do now?
resolve
We
the
just delay
contingency
until
there.
we figured it out. We just figured it out.
We
So,
just figured it out.
yeah,
Well-
I would say you could probably in the record, maybe have another motion to go ahead and proceed with closing based upon the fact that we figured out the appropriate
Second.
tax payments.
Thank you guys.
But yeah, no, the tenant paid for the tenant had possession for 3 years and paid for 3 years. And so,
That would be a tough expectation for somebody to pay taxes on a year that they don't.
well, yeah.
Get
no,
any income.
We
from.
would have had to have advertised it that way and
Yeah.
leased it that way, and it would have been in
It's a
the
lot to
contract
ask.
that way. And it goes back decades. And I don't know if you remember, but it was because of, what brought it to a head was, I think, the hospital owned a number of
Oh,
doctor's offices. And the argument was, well, they should be paying taxes on those properties because they're leasing them and they're generating income. And because they were government owned, they were saying, no, we're a county hospital, we don't have to pay taxes. We're exempt. And state said, no, if it's income producing, you gotta pay. So that's how that all came up.
I would guess that was about 02 or 03 when the county home got separated out of legal. That's
Probably,
when taxes started.
probably, yep. Yeah,
Well, thank you guys for figuring that out, so it didn't delay anything.
so that subdivision, we'll put that, I already talked to Mark Wynn, and it'll be on the agenda for next Tuesday. I think that's all I got. Do you have anything else, Clayton?
I would say thank you, thanks from Brianna and Kathy upstairs, it was probably what we've been ping ponging back and forth on all this, to try to get it done today.
teamwork, yeah, teamwork.
Yeah, it seems like it's interesting on this printer list. If you look, you can see where the counties, I know this because I see Jeremy from time to time. And so he went 100% paperless in his office for the purpose of what they do internally to process. So, which I need to think about too, because we print, and Brooke's pretty good about this, but we'll print documents and then turn around and go back and scan them. And then you throw them away. How stupid is that?
Yeah.
And we do it all the time. And if you've already got it, it's in your computer, you can just save it as a PDF. Generally, you can save it. So Jeremy in the prosecutor's office went paperless. It's interesting. He's got, let's see here, so Chad had a printer, Lisa had a printer. You look on here, number of copies, 0 all the way across. They're not using them. They've got one in the office that they have to use to print documents to go to court or to print documents that you might have to give to a witness or to an individual. And that's only for 6 months was 1,500. So there's only one device, it looks like, in that office that's even generating paper, but you can see the savings.
Jeremy actually was talking with me last week, and he, for the first time, took the leap, and the only thing he printed for a jury trial was anything he had to provide to the jury or provide to witnesses. Other than that, he ran everything off of OneNote on his iPad.
Wow.
Acquired skill.
And-
I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah. Well, and you can see too from Superior Court, Sam has made incredible use of WebEx. And, they don't transport prisoners in a lot of the hearings now. You don't have attorneys that have to drive to come into court, and they can have the hearing right on WebEx and the records maintained and everything's there. And so there's significant efficiencies that can be used. The question is, are you using it? And I can say, I know that Sam Conrad certainly is, Judge Conrad and Jeremy Brown in the prosecutor's office. So they're using it.
But to go from, what do you say we printed a couple of years ago, over
240, I wrote it down.
240,000?
September of 2017, he said we were averaging 247,000 pages per month.
And now we're at
And now
100.
we're around 100. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah. I would say that is increasing efficiency. All right.
Our main one up there is in the yellow, so probably next year, somewhere next year in the cycle, we probably wanna see what Tyler thinks about replacing that one. They're working, they came and replaced color rolls recently, and our printing is all wavy.
Shannon, did you have anything for us?
I missed it? Did you say something or did I miss it?
I said he's
You
retired.
did, okay. I missed it. So as Brad mentioned, we have a gentleman down at Highway who is retiring. So I would like permission to post and recruit for his position. And then I also have one in the surveyor's office that we resigned last week. So I also need permission to recruit and post for his position as well.
So moved.
Second.
And then, last week I sent you guys 5 job descriptions for Gold Meadows, and I also sent you an organizational chart. So those 5 job descriptions represent a general restructure of Golden Meadows admin team, as well as a new job description for a part-time activities assistant. As I mentioned in my email, that activities assistant position still has to go to wage review, still has to go through the whole process before we can hire for it. But the other 4 positions that I sent you, like I said, represents restructuring that admin team out there. Do you have any questions about that?
No, good to me.
Do we need a motion on that?
You.
So move.
Second.
To approve all 5 of them?
Yes.
Okay, and then do we want to take any action on the actual restructure today?
Yeah. Is that your recommendation that we do that?
Yes.
I'll make the motion then.
What exactly would you recommend?
I would recommend that we appoint Vivian Lloyd as the administrator of Gold Meadows throughout the restructure of combining the administrator and office manager positions out there. That's my recommendation.
So moved. Correct. Second.
Do you think she'll accept?
I don't know, I gotta ask her, but I'll work with her to get,
There's a folder.
her up to the auditor's office to sign an appointment form. But for the record, I would like that to be effective May 27th of 2023, which is a Saturday. It's the next closest pay period date. It's really hard for me and Bree to split all kinds of stuff in the middle of the period. So she will maintain her position and all of that other fun stuff until May 26th, and then May 27th is when she'll officially transition into the role.
Do we need to talk about salary or?
Nope, it's already all set. It is what it is. Bree and I have
A short
paperwork to
title at
do,
the
but
top.
no, everything is
Spelled
as it was,
capitalized.
as it was with
It's
the
supposed to say
previous
authorizing
commissioner.
execution of closing documents.
And all this is basically as a result of Mark's resignation and you're rethinking kind of how that staffing is
Yes.
most appropriate out there. And Vivian, thanks for your help in that.
Yeah, make that.
We sat down.
Work with the team out there.
Yep, the team out there has agreed that they believe that the admin can be run by 4 full-time musicians in this part-time activities position.
Down here.
So in an effort to spend our dollars wisely.
Hey, Mark, I can
Give it a
print it.
shot.
She sends it to me.
I don't have my,
I can only print upstairs.
can you send it to Stan's? Do you have Stan's email? What's your email,
Okay.
Stan?
Very good. S. Stoppenhagen,
S. Stoppenhagen,
CO.adams.com.
STOPPENHAGEN @ co.adams.in.us.
Yeah.
That's definitely,
Yeah, email that to Stan.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Because we got to sign that during this meetings.
Well, I could have you sign, you've approved it. I'm making a correction,
Gotcha.
but I'm not gonna, I might as well, if I got the 3 of you here, I'll make it.
Yeah. I just wondered if I could adjourn or not.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, no, you've already approved it.
Anything else from the general public? So
Yeah, you can
if
adjourn.
not, I'd take the motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.